Niesamowite emocje, a nam jest bardzo miło i serdecznie Was powitać, a są z Wami dzisiaj Przemysław Deja
i Maciej Kiwak.
Tak, także słuchajcie, witamy, pomachamy do kamery. O, nawet mamy dobre podpisy, także wszystko działa. Słuchajcie, dzisiaj emocji driftingowych nie zabraknie. Tak jak powiedziałem wcześniej, jest to druga runda driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski. Jesteśmy w Katowicach, mamy trasę wybudowaną na płycie lotniska Muchowiec, co swego rodzaju jest rzeczą na maksa unikalną. Chyba zgodzisz się, Przemku?
Oczywiście, nie zdarza się to często, bardzo fajna współpraca między DMP i miastem Katowice, także ogromne brawa za to, że udało się to zorganizować. Mamy trasę na płycie lotniska, trasa jest fajna, emocjonująca i na pewno będzie się bardzo dużo działo.
No tak, i trzeba też wspomnieć o tym, że trasa jest w całości, tak jak zresztą widzicie, wyłożona betonami, więc tutaj każdy, nawet najmniejszy błąd może sporo kosztować, o czym, jeśli dobrze wiem, przekonał się przed momentem niestety Maciej Jarkiewicz. Ja nie miałem okazji zobaczyć jego samochodu, bo byłem w strefie Drift Taxi, tam też robiliśmy testy, natomiast jak tylko wyskoczyłem ze swojego auta, dostałem info, że Maciek Jarkiewicz rozbity. No i właśnie co tam się wydarzyło? Przemek, ty wiesz?
Byłem akurat przy tym, stałem blisko separatorów, oglądałem przejazdy.
I słuchajcie, my w takim układzie przenosimy się i oddajemy głos naszym współprowadzącym. Zapraszamy do Kamila i Wiktorii.
Cześć, dzień dobry, ja nazywam się Kamil Michałowski, będę waszym przewodnikiem po tym wszystkim, co będzie działo się na transmisjach YouTube'owych. Przypominamy, nasza transmisja na YouTubie dostępna w języku polskim, ale także w języku angielskim, więc jeśli macie jakichś znajomych, którzy chcą pooglądać drugą rundę Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski właśnie w języku angielskim, to dajcie im cynk, że jest taka możliwość.
Cześć, ja nazywam się Wiktoria Rozenek i relacjonuję dla Was bieżące wydarzenia z toru na naszych social mediach Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski.
Zapraszamy Was do takiej w sumie trochę małej zabawy. Ja zapraszam na YouTube'a. Dajcie znaka Kiwakowi, a w ogóle naszym komentatorom, kogo chcielibyście zobaczyć w wywiadzie, który z zawodników albo zawodniczek jest dla Was najciekawszy do zobaczenia. Ja postaram się dowieść Wam taką rozmowę, którą podczas tej transmisji będziecie mogli zobaczyć. Jeśli macie też jakieś pytania konkretne do konkretnych zawodników i zawodniczek, to zostawiajcie je na czacie, a ja się tym zajmę.
A my podczas tej rundy sprawdzamy umiejętności naszych zawodników różnymi challenge'ami, więc chcielibyśmy, żebyście wskazali zawodnika, który będzie następny do challenge'u, który dla niego przygotujemy.
Zapraszamy Was na drugą rundę Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski. Oczywiście przed nami jeszcze przypomnienie, o co tu w ogóle wszystko chodzi, ale to pewno chłopaki z komentatorki się Wami zajmą.
Słuchajcie, jak najbardziej się Wami zajmiemy o tym, co będzie się działo. Oczywiście będziemy opowiemy też o tym, co dzieje się w ogóle w ramach Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski. Za nami pierwsza runda, która odbywała się na łączeniu.
And it is going to be crazy. There's plenty of action, plenty of drama, maybe some spills and thrills. So we'll have to see what happens this round, as we had quite a few upsets last round, with Nasir Halabali having mechanical issues. But obviously today we are going to be starting with pro qualifying and then moving on to semi-pro qualifying at the start, and then we'll be moving on to pro qualifying towards the later sections of the afternoon. And it's going to be really good. We do have around, I think it was 17 drivers in this round. So it is going to be plenty of good runs, I hope, as the semi-pro class seems to be stepping up every year in every section of the world, especially here in Poland, as we have your driver list coming up now. We have Petr Detmer starting off with Wojciech, followed by Maciej. Is going to be crazy. These guys, and again, well, these amazing drivers, I've got plenty of skill behind them, and we'll have to see. 19 drivers. Okay, so it's a bit more than what I was thinking. So as you can see there, this is the standings so far in class, in the semi-pro class. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who didn't get any points on the board will have to try and fight their hardest for the rest of the season. It is absolutely insane how many spectators the sport can bring there. As you can see, everyone's just walking around, having a good time, trying to get the view of the track. And one thing I do love about this is there's plenty of places to make mistakes on a technical layout like this. And it's not going to be as fast as the previous round. So we'll have to see what happens, as it's a bit slower, but a lot more technical. And this is where it could shake up everything. As you can see in the top right there, you've got the paddock, which is filled to the brim of drivers' pits, which just seems to get crazy every year. Their setups are just absolutely gorgeous. If you have seen Kuba Pashonsky's pit setup, my word, it's a racing truck. Obviously, you've got the racing truck, and then you've got the tents, and it's just, oh my word, it is absolutely gorgeous. I remember seeing it last year, and just the money some of these guys spend is absolutely mental. And obviously, it's not a cheap sport, but especially when you get to this level, it's even in semi-pro, it is an expensive sport, but it's definitely one worth doing, as we all love sending cars sideways, especially in competition. It's no better feeling than just taking that top spot, which is what these guys are going to want to be doing today. It's a big shame that Kian can't make it today with me and have a waffle. As you can see there, we've got the flags of all of the sponsors. And there you have it. That is our layout for today. All consistent of outside zones, unlike last round where we had inner clip 1, which did actually shake up a lot of the competition. A lot of the drivers were struggling to get that inner clip 1. And there is our judging panel. Lovely, lovely people. Gorgeous humans, I gotta say so myself. And they do a really good job at what they do. So they make sure everyone's got a fair competition. But yeah, like I was saying last round, going from inner clip 1 to 2 seemed to be one of the hardest things that they were doing. But we'll have to see how they cope with all of these outside zones this time, with plenty of transitions, as we have our starting list there. Going to be starting with Sebastian in that E46. And it's going to be crazy what we see today, I think, as this is going to be a massive even playing field compared to last round. As you can see, so yeah, we have 15 drivers today, with Patrick Detmer finishing off qualifying for us in that E36. Very popular choice of chassis. Obviously, one of the most developed besides the S chassis. As we can see, we do have someone on the line, which I'm hoping that is Sebastian. But as you can see, look at all of the, if you noticed, you got all of our sponsors just with their branding all around the track, showing off their products and just being amazing, amazing people supporting the wonderful world of drifting. So here we go. We have got that crazy liveried E46 with Sebastian in the driver's seat, number 33, 620 horsepower behind that engine. We'll have to see what he can do as we just wait for the start line marshal to check as he sends the lights to go red. Here we go. Your first run kicking off. Round 2 of DMP 2025. Sebastian coming in Now with a nice bit of speed, nice weight transfer initiation into outside zone 1, doing a nice job. Big transition into 2. Could have been a bit deeper there, but obviously it's his first run, so he can make it safe. Nice through 3. Transitioning now around to do big outside zone 4. Oh, just tapping the rear of his car, losing his rear. Losing panels as the rear bumper just flies off and across the line. I say it was meant to be his... Sebastian, it's your first run. Make it safe, but as you can see here, he's just going full send as he went into 4. Keeps it nice and smooth through 1. Big transition there. As you can see, the car just squats onto its side as he comes through outer 2. Lovely stuff though, as he comes around. Definitely keeping a nice line. Could have been a bit deeper going through the first 3 outer zones. As you can see here, he comes through and just goes a little bit too deep. So you might see a deduction there as he taps the wall and he kind of has to pull away and shallow his proximity to that outside line where he needs to be. Keeps it in the zone, but has to fight it and kind of keep it in, and it will probably deduct him, but he keeps it lovely and wide there as he comes across the last. So we'll have to see what that scores him, but definitely not the most ideal start to going into outside zone 4, but obviously he's got a second run, so he has got another chance. Definitely a crazy first run to start with. Nice and consistent and fluid. Just obviously needs to clean it up going into outside zone 4. But like I was saying earlier, this kind of layout is one of those where it is very technical, as Sebastian gets a 61.5 to start with. So not a bad start for Sebastian. Just obviously a little bit of room to improve. But we'll have to see what happens later when he comes back around. But now we have Darius in that gorgeous S15, the indigo liveried S15. I do believe that, yeah, that is the Rocket Bunny kit as well. Do like a good old-fashioned Rocket Bunny kit, can't go wrong. 700 horsepower as well, so lovely stuff. Got a bit more power to play with compared to Sebastian. But here we go. As the lights go green, what can we see from Darius? That's a good, big initiation there. Lovely, nice and wide. As he transitions now, keeping it nice and smooth so far through these transitions. Big transition there. Lovely, snappy flick as he comes around now into 4. Lovely car control as he comes into outside zone 4. Keeping it nice and smooth around that outside line. Just dropping as he comes out, but manages to bring it back around across 5. Not too shabby for Darius there on this first run. Not too shabby at all. As you can see here, as he's coming around into 1, uses all of the initiation to flick it around, and as you can see, he comes deeper sooner, which gives him a nice arc coming around 2. But unfortunately, he just wasn't as deep as he could have been, but keeps it nice and wide through 3. Very good line driving so far, and a lot of flair, a lot of style. It's what the judges are going to want to be seeing. Could have been a bit deeper going into that entry of outside zone 4, but manages to keep those rear wheels in and not dropping, and not a bad job there, just maybe dropping there at the end of 4, but manages to keep the run nice and consistent going through 5 as well. So definitely a good first run, definitely a good safe run as well. I know he's going to be wanting to go a bit harder into his second. There's a lot of iconic looking cars in this, even in semi-pro. It's one thing I've noticed so far from round 1. And so you've got the big boys in pro class, but they're all iconic in their own respect. But even semi-pro have insane looking cars. But a 74 there for Darius, so not a bad start at all. So he is our top qualifier so far. So lovely stuff so far. But we now have Mike Tesla in that E46 with 500 horsepower. So the lowest horsepower car we've seen so far today. Obviously, there's only been 3 drivers so far, but definitely one of the lower horsepower cars in semi-pro. As our startline marshal sends him out as he goes around that chicane. Lovely livery on that E46 as well. Nice handbrake initiation there from Mike, but just a bit hesitant in that transition, but manages to keep it going, just touching 3 as he comes around now into 4. Lovely entry into 4 though. Manages to keep it going nice and smooth. Can he keep it going around? Yes, he can, as he comes around and transitions for the last time into 5. Just could have been a bit deeper there. So definitely not going to be the runner he wants, but we'll have to see what he can do with the second. As we look back now, as you can see, he's going for that straight line handbrake initiation, which does reward him. But as you can see here, just the angle into the transition was not the best, and it was a bit hesitant, but manages to make it nice and snappy coming around into 3, but just unfortunately not getting as deep as he wanted to be. But lovely into outside zone 4. As you can see, he keeps it nice and deep from the start, just dropping a wheel towards that outer line, but manages to keep it going, keeps the car on angle, keeping it nice and deep towards the outside line, and then a nice transition through 5. The main thing is for his second run, he's just got to tighten up and neaten that line. As you can see, it is currently 10 past 12 in Poland. I come from England, so it is 10 past 11. So good afternoon and good morning to everyone who is watching. We hope you have a great day, as Mike Tesla gets a 64.5, so that puts him in second. So he is currently having a great day. But we do appreciate everyone coming through and in supporting. And look at this E82 Damien Wittek, 550 horsepower. Definitely an interesting looking car, as it's got quite an aggressive stance on the front. I won't lie, it's very angry in some form. As we have the lights go green, Damien now firing that E82 into the initiation. Lovely and deep there through 1. Can he get it nice and deep into 2? Oh, just missing out. Maybe it could have been deeper. Oh, big transition. Almost loses it and has to kind of take a hit on his line there as he comes around outside zone 4. As you can hear, the rev limiter just screaming as he comes across the line. Definitely not what he wanted to be doing, but unfortunately that is drifting. Can happen. Lovely indeed there. Maybe just dropping a wheel as it came through out of 1. Transitions through 2. Could have been deeper there, just touching into that zone. Comes around into 3. Very big snappy angle. Just, I think this is, you can see those front wheels just turning. He got more angle than he needed, and I think that's the moment where he had to kind of pull the car away and kind of almost hold on for dear life as he comes around into 4. Manages to clean that back up though. Gets a nice consistent smooth angle. Does a lovely job coming around into 5. So not too bad there from Damien. Obviously, it's just that big mistake going from 3 to 4 is going to cost him quite a bit, unfortunately. As we just await for our judges' score. I'm liking all the use of the inflatables all around the track. That's awesome. Giant inflatables is where it's at. Just adds so much atmosphere to an event. And you can hold me to that. As you can see over to your left, we do have the Red Bull entrance gate, which is really cool. And we do appreciate Red Bull for supporting and being there as an amazing sponsor. Definitely one of the craziest companies to ever come into the sport, with the likes of Connor Shanahan. You've got the Red Bull Drift Brothers as well. Some amazing talent. Obviously, you've got Cooper Pushon Ski as well. They support the biggest and best in our sport, and we will always love them forever. As you can see, though, this layout is almost like a S going into an infinity in some form, in the shape of the track. I would love to give this track a go myself, but you can see in the back there, towards behind the grandstands, we do have some demos going on. I do believe that is the speed games, I think that's called. So if you ever want to experience some drifting on a simpler level, go and have a look. Go and have some fun. I do believe we have this at every event that we're doing this year as well. As you can see there, you got all of the trailers and support vehicles of all of the teams and crew. And you have an amazing grid this season with Damien getting a 55 for his first run. So very good start there for Damien. So we'll have to see what he does with his second run as we all get 2 runs. But now we have Wojciech Fabiszak in that gorgeous S15. Probably one of my favorite S chassis on the grid in this class. Obviously, the livery is where it really shines, I'd say. It just follows the lines of the car. Really nice. But we have this Polish national driver with number 26. Just waiting to leave the line now as the lights go green. That guy is screaming as he goes down towards the initiation. Nice handbrake initiation there. Oh, just a bit, almost getting too much angle. Manages to make it work, going into outside zone 2. Lovely through outside zone 3 as he comes around. Oh, just getting a bit too deep there, going towards 4, but manages to make it work. But he might get a deduction there as he comes around. Lovely out, leaving outside zone 4 and across to 5. Not a bad run at all. Definitely a couple of moments where it could have gone wrong. But manages to make it work really well. As you can see there, going through 1, nice and deep through that outside clip. Nice big transition following the outside line on 2, just flirting with that line. So we'll have to see what the judges think of that. As it comes around to 3, lovely and deep once again, right where it needs to be. And it seems to be going from 3 to 4 as this transition here. People seem to be either going a bit too hard or not hard enough so far, but he manages to make it work really well. But we'll have to see if the judges make any deductions going into that entry of 4, as he did technically drop a wheel over the outside line, but manages to make it work very well. Definitely a very good run. Just a little couple of bits to clean up, but Wojciech doing a really nice first run there. Couldn't have really asked for more. We do have our burnout box right by the start line there. Just got our next driver getting ready. I've just seen that big bouncy castle with the slide. That's awesome. Oh, I know. Plenty of attractions alongside the drifting, of course. It's an event for all of the. As you can see there, Cooper Pochonsky's race truck and pits out right at the front of the grid. And we do have a score dropping in for Wojciech, which is a 70.5. Putting him in second, but in for Wojciech, which is a 70.5. Putting him in second. If that from one of our first Fabiszaks of the day. So we're just now waiting on our next to send it down the line. And we have Roy Samfir in his E46, 500 horsepower as well. So we have the Ukrainian that wants to win. And I do have a soft spot for this car because I love the purple and yellows, because it's just two colors that goes really well together. As we have the lights go green, we have them now sending it down the main straight. Nice weight transfer initiation there with a little bit of handbrake. Big transition going through outside zone 2. Not getting too crazy so far. Lovely through 3, nice and deep. Nice entry into 4, but just doesn't make it in, but has to fight to get the car nice and deep. As you can see there, again, a nice exit, and it comes around to 5. Lovely stuff. So good finish to that run. As you can see, it just seems to be the entry into 4 that seems to be getting people. But nice initiation there from the get-go. But could have been a bit deeper through 2. Obviously, your first run, you're going to be a bit safe. Lovely through 3 there. Can't really fault any of that. And then going through 4, just a bit hesitant on the entry, and it gave a catch. I think it just gave the car a bit of a chance to grip up, pulled it out a bit shallow, but manages to get the car to go back in nice and deep. Lovely exit on 4 there. Big transition coming around into 5 and hits 5 really nicely there. Lovely job from this amazing Ukrainian driver. So definitely not a bad first run, but we'll have to see what he gets as there's a couple of moments. But 73.5 there for Hiroi. So it's putting him in second place. So his line driving is definitely benefiting him. As we have Vaclav Burian. Very young looking driver, 450 horsepower. So this is an E46 compact. I forget this car exists. So it's E90 or E90. I think it's E90 panels on a 46 compact. Oh, and as you can hear, the car absolutely screaming, trying its hardest to get going. Not too bad through 2. Nice big transition through 3. Lovely stuff there. Maybe he's just dropping half a tyre. Coming around into 4. A little handbrake drag to go through. There is a decel zone there. As he comes around now, lovely through 4. And does a nice big transition. Oh, but just the car kind of catches straight and has to fight it to get back to angle. But not a bad first run there. So as you can see here, that 46 compact definitely fighting him a bit, but obviously one of the lowest horsepower, if not the lowest horsepower car on this grid. Definitely showing that it wants to fight him. But as it comes through 3, lovely through 3, just maybe dropping half a tire, but we'll have to see what the judges think of that. Coming through to 4, this is one of the best entries into 4 I've seen so far. As you can see there, just does a nice little handbrake drag, just to let it settle in, float in. Maybe just pulling a bit too shallow there, obviously dropping outside of the zone. But this is the interesting point of the run, where he comes around into the transition and just isn't where he needs to be, and the car just kind of pulls straight. Don't know whether that was with the car just gripping up, or if it was just he didn't think he was going to be set up for 5 properly, but we'll have to see. That is the part where the judges will be looking at the most, I would say. Just because was it enough to class as a straighten? Obviously, the very interesting car though. E46 chassis with modern, well, E9C2 and the E9Cs are they're not that modern anymore. What am I on about? They're like mid to late 2000s. So it's quite a while back now. They've been around for a long time. But even then, I do think the E92 still look a lot more modern than the majority of BMWs. But we're just waiting on his score. As you can see there, we've got the figure of 8 demo track at the top end of our event venue. Lovely weather there today at Katowice. As over in England right now, it is awful, so I'm kind of jealous. But as you can see, there is a bit of a cloud coming across and over the track at the moment, kind of looming over. Quite an intimidating kind of look. But as we have Vaclav's first score coming, so that was not deemed as a straight-in, so luckily he's been put into 4th. So he's got a lot to improve, I'd say, when it comes to that last transition. But hopefully he can in his second run. But now we have Bartolomej in that BMW M2. Running 700 horse behind the wheels. So let's see what he can do with that big wing on the back. V8 screaming. Very fast initiation, but just coming short so far of 1 and 2. Just misses 3, not quite where he wants to be, but can he redeem it into 4? Yes, he can. He gets nice and deep into outside zone 4. Can he keep it there? Yes, he can, as he comes around now in the last transition, 2 out of 5. And across the line, it's definitely not the best first run there. As we go into our replay, let's have a look at this. So a lot of aggression in the initiation, as you can see there, big flick with a dab of handbrake, which gets him nice into one, but with, I think, the car setup's just not quite there. Unless, it could be many things, of course. This is drifting, there's many variables. Unfortunately, his line was just not quite there from 2 to 3, which meant he did miss those 2 outer clips. But then it does bring him into 4, decently good. But obviously just dropping a wheel out of it as well. And that is the one thing that is going to be hard for these semi-pro drivers, I think, is going through hour 4 and keeping the proximity to that outside line nice and consistent and smooth, because that's what our line judges are going to want to be seeing for sure, is consistency throughout the entirety of outside zone 4, not kind of pulling in or going too deep. Don't want to see any bobbling or wavering really regarding that outside line, as the smoother you are through there, the better it will be for the chase. And one thing that judges have to consider is qualifying scores based off of if there's a chase car behind you as well. But that does put him in 4th with a 68.5. So a lot of improvements needed to be made in that second run, but obviously this is why we have 2 attempts. But like I was saying, the judges are going to want to be considering that there will be a chase car going into battles. So one thing that they will be looking at is how a good lead sets up for a good chase, and without the good lead, the chase driver can't do his job properly, which means they have to think about it in a sense of qualifying. You kind of want to be doing you want to be treating it like you're in battles. You want to be putting on your best lead as possible, and it makes the chase driver's job a lot easier. And a lot of the time, the battle can be won through the lead, as that is where it's the setup for the battle, really. But here we go, the lights go red, and now they go green for this gorgeous S13. Did a little bit of a run there. But here we go, firing it into the first corner. Lovely stuff going through towards 2. Lots of speed, lots of commitment. Oh, just dropping there, going a bit too fast. Has to miss it outside zone 3. And coming around it into 4. Not quite getting into there. Has to try and let the car float back. Coming around, exiting 4. Nice and smooth, though. He's coming around into 5. Across the line. Definitely a bit of a scrappy run there. So going in with a 65, putting him in 6th. Michael doing a good job, just having to fight the grip almost. But now we have that insane S14 from Maximilian. 850 horsepower. This thing is definitely... this is a beautiful machine. Absolutely beautiful. But Maximilian, also a great driver. With a nice fast entry there, nice flick initiation. Could have been a bit deeper in 1. Manages to come around into 2 once again. Could have been a bit deeper once again. I'm being very critical though, as he comes around now into 4. Nice little dab of the handbrake there just to settle the car as he comes around in through 4. Nice and deep as he transitions now in towards 5. Lovely stuff there from Maximilian. Definitely not the best run he could have done, but putting points on the board, that's all that matters. Gives you a kind of a look at where you need to be in the second run. As you can see there though, coming around from 2 to 3, could have been a bit deeper from the start of 3, but manages to come around into 4. You can just see the little puff of smoke as he pulls the handbrake. and dabs it. Definitely could have been deeper there. At the start of outside zone 4. I do apologise, it's been a very early morning for me. As definitely finishes up the run strong. Just there's loads of spots where there was moments. How do I put this? There was moments where there could have been improvement throughout the run in multiple places, and it's obviously first runs, banker runs. There's going to be that, always going to be that. You're not. It's very hard to do your perfect qualifying run in the first one. But Maximilian come with an 84, so putting him in first. So judges really liking that run. But now we have Bartos in that E92, 1,000 horsepower. And Bartos, obviously unable to use his arms, uses his feet to control the car and his shoulders. It's a very talented driver, proving the world that no matter what, nothing's going to let him get down. As he does a nice job through 1, maybe a bit too deep there, but manages to get through 2, lovely and deep, right on that line. Just dropping through outside zone 3, but can he get around into 4? Yes, he can. Oh, just tapping the wall there with the rear of his car. Doing a nice job of keeping it going though. Lovely exit of outside zone 4, trusting onto 5. Jesus. Calm down. He went crazy into that first run. Lots of speed and commitment. As you can see there, transitioning into 2. Lovely through outside zone 2. But just getting a bit too deep on 3. But that entry onto 4, this is where it gets a bit crazy. As you can see, those rear wheels locking up and has to kind of dial on angle to get away from the wall. But does a good job at recovering that bit of proximity to the wall. And manages to bring it nice and smooth around into 5. Definitely a couple of places that need improving, obviously going into 4. But a lot of style, a lot of aggression. That's what we like to see. So we'll have to just wait on the judges to bring his first score. And it's a 66, putting him in 7th place. So good job there from Bartos. Obviously he's got a second run as we have another Indigo car, which is Magdalena. Awesome, awesome set of cars, both Rocket Bunny S15s. Obviously teammates looking absolutely crazy. There we go, firing at him. Oh, but Magdalena getting a bit too aggressive on the initiation. The car flicked a bit too hard into the opposite way as she struggles to get the car to get back onto angle and has to get that line back coming around into 4. It seems like that car is very loose at the moment in its setup. But manages to get it nice through 4, coming around. Oh, just skimming the wall as she comes around into outside zone 5. Definitely a scrappy run there. The car's definitely loose. Let's just say that. That was whoa, that was something. Going through 2 though, just a bit too deep there. But manages to bring the car back around. That was definitely some spice going into out of 4 as well. As you can see, gets nice into outside zone 4, but as you come around this arc, you got to follow it nice and smooth, and just starts to wash wide and just rubs the wall, exiting outside zone 4, which is just crazy. It's Magdalena, you crazy woman. Definitely gonna have to improve a bit, especially when it goes into the top 16. But that will be a 0, so she's got to work hard, get a score on the board for the next run. And I'm gonna guess that the judges did deem that unchaseable. Now we have Matouche in that E92, the first E92 of the day, with the 777 horsepower. I've just noticed his driver number is 777 as well. That's wicked. There we go, that E92 firing it into outside zone 1, doing a nice job so far. Bit of a hesitant transition there, but manages to make it snap nice and quick. Coming around into 3, doing a good job so far. Maybe putting on the power a bit too soon, going into 4, but manages to get it nice and deep once again. Exiting now in towards outside zone 5, doing a lovely job across the line. As he opens that door, it's definitely hot in that car right now. Possibly the car isn't quite feeling right for him, but we'll have to see what he does with the second run. As you can see, going into outside zone 2, just a bit shallow compared to where he could have been, but manages to make it work lovely into 3. And as you can see here, going into 4, kind of just a little bit off the power, and then just needed to be a little bit deeper going into the entry of 4, but manages to keep it nice and wide there. Just flirting with outside zone 4. Manages to make it work very nicely though. This comes around now into 5. Definitely not a bad run. Definitely not a bad run at all. Obviously, first runs, there's a lot of improvements that will have to be made between all of the drivers, as your first run's always going to be the most nerve-wracking, and that's when you kind of sit back and just go, right, I've got this for the second run. But Matus with an 83.5, putting him in second place. So lovely stuff there from Matus. Judges rewarding these drivers. And we have Wojciech now in that crazy E36 M3 GTR, 700 horsepower. Gotta say, one of my personally one of my favourite kits you can get for an M3. But now we have the lights go green. Let's see what this driving car can do as he sends it down the main straight. Lovely clutch kick initiation there with a bit of handbrake. Just missing outside zone 2 though. But can he get into 3? Yes he can, as the car does look a bit twitchy going in towards 4. Manages to make it work as he comes around now. Just flirting with that line though. Can he keep it in 4? Yes he can, as he comes around now into outside zone 5. Could have been a bit deeper there as well, but of course the first run kind of testing the waters. But as you can see here, just coming from out of zone 1 to 2, could have needed it just to transition a bit deeper, and unfortunately did miss it, but manages to get outside zone 3 nicely there. Collects that, but as he comes around into 4, you can see the car's trying to grip and pull away from that outer line, just flirting with the inside line of outer 4, which means he does score in that zone. But it's the question of, will the judges reward him for that, or will they want him deeper in the second run? Same goes for outside zone 5. We will have to see. As we got a lovely drone shot there of our venue. The drone pilot's just doing God's work right now, if I do say so myself. Giving us the best views of all the action and everything going on. And we do have a score dropping in for Wojciech there, which is a 62.5, so that puts him in 11th so far. And now we have Patrick Detmer, who is our last driver, I do believe, for the first set of runs in that E36. 630 horsepower as the lights go green. This was our winner of last round in semi-pro. So Patrick Detmer's got a lot to hold on to for this round as well. Lovely transition going into 2. Lots of speed, lots of commitment. And around into 3. Transitions now into 4. Keeping it nice and smooth. Definitely could have been a bit deeper as he got into out of zone 4, but manages to make it nice and deep towards the end and comes around across 5 and across the line. So definitely a lot of commitment in that run, a lot of consistency as well. Patrick being our number 1 driver so far in the standings after round 1. Definitely going to be wanting to hold that position as he comes around now into 3. Definitely doing a nice job. Consistent, smooth angle, lots of speed, lots of commitment. That's what our judges want to see. Obviously, as you can see here, just struggles to get deep from the start of outside zone 4, manages to make the car float as he gets further in. With that GoPro on the back of the wing, so that's going to give you a lovely view of all the action on his socials. Definitely not a bad first run there from our top standing driver so far. It's just a question of what will the judges be looking for in that run. That little demo track looks so much fun. You can't beat a figure of 8. It's an unbeaten formula. As you can see there, we've got a bunch of stands and trade stalls over in the spectator area. We've also got the car show as well. So, as you can see there, just all of those cars coming in and looking beautiful to be shown at all of these events. As we have Patrick Detmer's first qualifying score coming in at 79, which puts him at 3rd. And I do believe we have an interview coming up with Paweł Korpulinski.
Paweł Korpuliński, dwukrotny mistrz Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski z sezonu 24 i 23 jest z nami w studiu. Cześć Paweł.
Cześć, hej.
Słuchaj, no jak się czujesz patrząc na to, jak wygląda ta trasa, jak wyglądała pierwsza runda? Czy myślisz sobie, znowu bym powalczył o mistrza, czy jednak myślisz już sobie, no byłoby ciężko?
Na pewno byłoby ciężko, szczególnie biorąc pod uwagę międzynarodową stawkę kierowców, którą mamy w tym roku w Mistrzostwach Polski, ale też z drugiej strony z chęcią bym pojeździł, tym bardziej, że Katowice mi pasowały. W zeszłym roku świetnie mi się tu jeździło, nawet jeszcze bez tego ładnego i płaskiego dolanego asfaltu. Mieliśmy płyty, które były, no powiedzmy, że lekko dziurawe, ale nie przeszkadzało mi to za bardzo, jeździło mi się świetnie na tej rundzie, więc tak, no też bym pojeździł, ale akurat w tym roku moja rola jest z lekka inna w Mistrzostwach Polski.
No tak, spoglądamy tutaj przechodząc po pitach, że bacznie obserwujesz zawodników, spoglądasz na to, co się dzieje. Powiedziałeś o tym, że te Katowice mimo wszystko w zeszłym roku ci leżały, no ale patrząc na to, jak ten tor wygląda w tym roku, no nie uwierzę, że któregoś wieczoru nie wsiadłeś w jakieś auto i się nie przejechałeś.
No nie, niestety się nie przejechałem, nie było takiej możliwości, ale no tak, z chęcią sprawdziłbym, jak jeździ się po lustrzanym odbiciu tej trasy, bo w zeszłym roku była to bardzo podobna konfiguracja, ale właśnie w lustrzanym odbiciu.
Gdybyś miał obstawiać tak na starcie tak naprawdę drugiej rundy Driftingowych Mistrzostw Polski, kto w tym roku ma szansę na zostanie mistrzem?
No myślę, że aktualna czołówka, czyli 3 pierwszych zawodników, czyli Jakub Król, Mikołaj Zakrzewski i Kuba Przygoński. Myślę, że to są na pewno nazwiska, na które trzeba patrzeć i myślę, że oni na pewno są pretendentami do tego, żeby o ten tytuł mistrzowski walczyć. No ja osobiście najbardziej trzymam kciuki i dopinguję Mikołaja, bo z nim współpracuję i chciałbym, żeby to on do tego tytułu jakby doszedł, no ale na pewno będzie to trudna walka i będzie to emocjonujący sezon. Tym bardziej z racji tego, że są to tylko 4 rundy, więc tutaj nie ma miejsca na to, żeby jakaś jedna runda poszła gorzej, nie ma żadnego jakby marginesu na to, że można było sobie pozwolić na jakiś błąd czy po prostu gorszy start. Tutaj punkty trzeba zbierać z każdej rundy, żeby no, dowieść to finalne miejsce w klasyfikacji generalnej.
Gdybyście chcieli z Pawłem Korpulińskim zbić piątkę, to pewno podczas otwartych pitów będzie taka opcja. Paweł Korpuliński, wielkie dzięki.
Dziękuję bardzo.
So there you have it. That was Paweł Korpulinski, just kind of giving his views on how he's feeling about this season, and obviously his top 3 drivers of who he thinks is going to be at the top fighting contention. But now we have Sebastian once again going for his second run as the lights go green. Lovely weight initiation. As comes around now into 2, nice and deep there, coming around. Can he keep the back end of his car together this time? Lovely through 3, coming around into 4 now, doing a solid job as he comes around. Whoa, just flirting with that outside line once again, getting very deep. He really does not want to keep that back end of his car, but as he comes across the line, not a bad second run once again, just keeping the car intact. So once again, checking out the run, lovely through outside zone 1, manages to get a nice transition coming through outside zone 2, and this is where it's very important, is just keeping the transitions timed very nice and smooth, as it sets you up perfectly for the next outside zone. As you can see here, where Sebastian comes around, does a nice entry into 4. As you can see, the car does start to wash wide and does drop outside of that outside line, but manages to bring it back in once again as he comes around and exits. Once again, almost just flirting with danger and almost touching the wall, but transitions nice and big going in towards outside zone 5, but does a lovely run there. Nice and smooth. That is what we want to see. And I've just been told that Sebastian is actually a Polish YouTuber. So if you want to go and check out any of his stuff, see, these are all things I'm learning at the moment. And he's a very popular YouTuber in Poland. So if you want to go and check out his stuff, make sure to go and follow his socials and keep up to date with the content he makes. But as we have him coming through now, the 68 on his second run, so improving from that 61.5, which puts him in 8th so far. So lovely work there from our lovely YouTuber friend Sebastian. But now we have Darius back on the start line in that Indigo Rocket Buddy S15. As we now have another run for the last time of this gorgeous S15. My English did not English there, but a big initiation there, going from outside zone 1. Nice transition into 2, nice and smooth. Could have been a bit nicer coming through that transition, but keeps it nice and fast, coming around into outside zone 4. Lovely stuff, keeping it on. Oh, just floating with the outside line as he comes around and exits 4. Nice and deep, coming around into 5 and across the line. There is a lot of grip in that car. And it seems to be the case with both of the Indigo S15s, as Magdalena's car seem to be very loose, but very two very different cars in some way. As this one just seems to be very, very gripped up, and Magdalena's seems to be very loose. So that's quite interesting to see how differently they're set up. But as you can see here, just getting really close to that wall, just rubbing his rear light against that wall as he comes around and exits 4. Doing a nice job though, coming around and big transition into 5. Definitely going to be interesting what the judges think to that, as that was his second run, so we'll have to see if it's an improvement. Lots of aggression though, lots of style. It's just a question of, was it the right kind of aggression? That is the question. Is it where the judges want to see it? It'll all reflect in the score, as we do have those custom grandstands made there for all of our spectators who want to watch all the action. And I've got to say that it must be awesome watching from those grandstands right next to the wall, so you can see all of these drivers almost taking out their rear ends. It is a really, really cool setup we've got here at Katowice in 2025. Previous years, this has been a very, very cool track to watch. So hopefully this year can live up and exceed those expectations. As you can see there on our left, we do have our emergency crews in case of any incidents that happen as well. So Darius getting a 72.5 on a second run, so not an improvement, unfortunately. So he will be staying where he stays. But we have Mike Tesla now, once again, in that E46. As we send him down the main straight now, with our sideline marshal getting the lights not green. Ooh, just nearly stalling up the car there. 500 horsepower behind that E46. Nice handbrake initiation going into outside zone 1. Maybe a bit of a that was a bit of a strange transition going into 2, which didn't end up putting him on the right line, but he manages to get it nice and smooth in towards 4 now. Lovely entry into 4 as he comes around that big outside zone. Lovely stuff there from Mike Tesla on outside zone 4, but just misses outside zone 5. Maybe transitioning a bit too early between 4 and 5. But we'll have to see what the judges think of that. As you can see here, coming through 1 to 2, maybe just transitioning a bit too early, which ends up him being quite shallow going into 2. But manages to bring it back going into 3, which is lovely. And I do think this is genuinely one of the best lines we've seen so far through outside zone 4. You can see that keeping it mid to wide line through outside zone 4 from the start, and just keeps it on the wide line there. Coming around, lovely stuff. And as he starts to transition, maybe the car just gripped up a little too much. It's hard to say. Obviously, I'm not in that car. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the setup is, but does a really good job in that run. So we'll have to see what the judges think. And you can see, oh, there's a Lamborghini down there. I think that's a Aventador. Sorry, I'm just being a car nerd right now. I spot supercar. I go, ooh. But it is a 69.5, so that is an improvement there for Mike Tesla. So lovely stuff from our Ukrainian driver. But now we have Damian Witek back at the line with a 55 on the score for his first qualifying run. So we'll have to see what he does with his second one as the E82 prepares to fire it down the main straight. Here we go, you can see all the spectators watching on as Damian now fires it down the main straight. Nice weight transfer into a little clutch kick initiation. Lovely stuff so far. Got that E82 just firing it through the track so far. Going through out 3, nice job as he comes around now into 4 with a little bit of decel. Manages to keep it nice and wide though. Coming around, Damian doing a good job, just flirting with that inner line though, and manages to make it work as he comes through round 5 and just almost touches it. Seems to be people are starting to struggle going from 4 to 5 now, which is very interesting. But this is the thing in drifting, you focus on one thing too much and then the rest just falls up. You almost forget on how to do the other parts sometimes. It's qualifying's a very daunting place to be. But he makes everything work really, really well. Especially coming into 4 here. Could have been a bit deeper on the start, but manages to make it float back nicely. As the drone just flies around the car. Lovely, lovely shots here. Just could have been a bit deeper on 4, which obviously didn't set him the best up. 4-5. But definitely didn't do bad at all. Good driving there from Damian. As we get a second score in, and it is a 75, so putting him into 4th place. So Damian Witek doing a big improvement between his 2 runs, and that's what we like to see, and this is why we have 2 runs. But now we have Wojciech Fabisiak back in that awesome S15, and I just love it. His first qualifying run, obviously 70.5, so still room to improve. So let's see what he can do as he fires it down that main straight. Nice little handbrake initiation, lovely through 1, maybe a bit too close to the outside line going into 2, but does a lovely job of recovering it. Coming around now into 4, lovely stuff there from Wojciech as he comes around the outside zone 4, lovely stuff there exiting around. Can he get into 5? Yes he can. Good run there from Fabisiak. Very impressive stuff. So as he comes through 1, perfect there through 1. Maybe a bit too much angle or maybe not enough of momentum, but manages to make it work as he comes through 2. Just flirting with that outside track limit. A bit too much there. Getting very well acquainted with it as he comes around into 4. As you can see there, the dab of the handbrake just kicking up that smoke, but does a lovely job of keeping that outside line control as he comes through 4. And you can see the entire rear fuel system setup, including rear rad. Really cool setup on that car, but just a lovely job coming through 4. And obviously finishes the run off strong, coming through outside zone 5. Maybe could have had a bit more angle, but Once again, I've not driven this track or layout ever, even in the simulator, so it's hard for me to say how that zone reacts. But I'd definitely say that would be an improvement there, which it is. So Wojciech Fabersiak getting a 79 in run 2, so lovely improvement there by 4.5 points. As we move back to the line now with Hiro Zemfer from Ukraine, 500 horsepower with a 73.5 on his first run. So we'll have to see what he can do to improve. As the starlight marshal now gets ready to send him down, as he waits for those lights to go green, and there we go, Hiroi getting ready to send it in. Nice transition, or should I say initiation there, lovely through outside zone 1, nice and consistent through 2, coming around now into 3, maybe just dropping the wheel there as he comes around now into 4, getting very deep, just flirting with the wall, but manages to pull away just in time as he comes around and exits 4. Lovely. Ooh, just a bit of a hiccup there in the transition going into 5, but manages to make it work. Definitely could have been a bit cleaner in some spots. But as you can see here, coming through to 2, does a nice job of keeping it consistent. Going into 3, this is where it kind of went a bit wrong, as he could have transitioned a bit quicker. Going into there, he could have pulled it in and kept it a bit more consistent, but just flirting with the wall there. Managed to make it work. Keeps it nice and smooth through 4 for the rest of the zone. Lovely stuff there from Zemfir. Not too bad at all. The 46 being one of the lower horsepower cars of the grid. Doing a great job. So Hiro Zemfir, unfortunately, not improving with a 65.5, so we'll be staying in 7th, as we now have Vaclav Burian in that E46 compact with a 68 on the board to start with, 450 horsepower. So this is the lowest horsepower car in DMP this season, so he's doing a very good job of making it work. And there we go, that E46 firing into the first corner, lovely throughout 1. Big transition into 2. Look at that, perfect through 2 as they come around now into 3. Perfect through 3. Once again, this is looking really good from Vaclav as he comes around into 4. Nice and wide. That's what we want to see through 4. Lovely stuff in this E46 compact so far. Lovely exit of 4. Can he get around into 5? Yes, he can. Lovely second run there from Vaclav. Great driving. Amazing, amazing stuff from the Czech Republic. As you can see there, just lovely on his line driving here. Perfect going into 2. Just goes to show, power does not mean everything. It helps, but it certainly is not the most important factor. It's all about the driver. As you can see here, coming through 4, doing a lovely job. Keeping it nice and wide throughout the entire zone. Maybe just dabbling in a little bit left foot brake potentially, just to keep the car there. But does a really, really good job around the entire layout. That is a great second run there from Vaclav. And you can see the Katowice logo on the floor of the track, as this is an airfield. There you go, Vaclav with a 91 in his second run. Wow, what a second run that was. Vaclav getting rewarded massively for that amazing line driving. And it just goes to show the lowest horsepower car is here. It is here to party. But we now have Bartolomic in that M2 with a 68.5 on his first run. So we'll have to see what he can do with his second. He's a happy man. Very, very happy man. As we get him ready to go down the main straight, can he clean up his second run? We'll have to see as the lights go green. He fires it through that chicane. V8 screaming once again. Ooh, just a bit of a snappy early initiation there, just missing a bit on one, a bit too shallow, but managed to get through 3 nicely so far. Coming around now into 4. This thing is really gripped up, and I love this car. Crazy driver, crazy attitude in the car is awesome as it comes through 5. Lovely stuff there. Lovely, lovely stuff. As you can see here, big snappy initiation. Could have been a bit deeper going through outside zone 1, but manages to make it work. Pulling it around into outside zone 2. Definitely could have been deeper once again, but this is me picking at straws. But does a great job of keeping it on the line where he's meant to be, as he did struggle with those first couple of zones in the previous run, so this is a big improvement. Does a great job coming through outside zone 4 though. As you can see there, the M2 just doing what it needs to do. Very, very good chassis to drive. As he comes around into 5, I'm going to say this is going to be a big improvement from his first run. Obviously, I'm not a judge, so we'll have to see what they say. As you can see, everyone's in the pits just with their e-scooters, just kind of getting around. Seems to be the most popular thing right now. With a 77.5 though for Bartolomej. So a nice improvement there, almost 10-point improvement. So he is going to be happy with that. As we now have this crazy S13 with Michał Golowiecki. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that name. I'm so bad with these names. But Michał doing a great job in his first run with a 65, but obviously there is room for improvement as he fires it into the main straight now with those Tiski Zero advertisement boards there, one of our sponsors. Nice big flip there into transitioning into 2. He does a good job into 3, bringing it around now into outside zone 4, doing a good job so far, keeping it nice and smooth. Maybe a bit of a bubble there going through outside, the middle of outside zone 4, but manages to bring it round into 5 and across the line. So good stuff there from Michał. So crazy snappy initiation. As you can see that the car loads itself as he transitions into outside zone 2, but makes it work as he comes around into outside zone 3. Lovely proximity into that zone. And obviously, coming into 4, that is a decel, as well as the initiation. So you can slow the car, but it's just a balancing act of, if you do too much deceleration, you come in short. If you don't decel enough, you go into the wall. So it's a risk reward kind of situation. And obviously, you do have to decel going through there. But we'll have to see what Michał's second score is, as we just await on those. So here we go, Michał with a 72.5, so improving on that 65. So lovely stuff there. But we have Maximilian now in that gorgeous S14. I genuinely think this is my favorite S14 that exists in the world right now. I can't lie. It's just so unique. But he's got 84 in his first run. So very good first score, but can he improve? As he fires that S14 in outside zone 1, just missing it. As he comes around into outside zone 2, doing a decent job, but just not as clean as his first run. As he comes around into outside zone 4, just not as deep as he should be as well. Definitely struggling to get the car where it needs to be as he comes around now into 5. Definitely not the cleanest run he's done today so far. But we'll have to see what the judges think. As you can see that Max Racing intercooler on the front. Obviously supported by ECU Master as well. Really nice livery on that car. Very similar to the Max Racing S13 that is in Pro Class. So it's good to see 2 cars kind of matching each other between the 2 classes. As you can see here, just the car's just trying to grip and pull away from outside zone 4. So he's kind of having to fight it to stay in there. But manages to make it work, and just a little bit too much of a snappy transition, and it doesn't allow the car to get into 5 in the way he wanted it to. As you can see there, our last few drivers on the qualifying grid as Kuba Przysiąski's pit is right there, and it's a 73.5 for Maximilian on his first qualifying run. As we have Bartos now once again with a 66 to start with, so we'll have to see what this man can do. Obviously 1,000 horsepower, crazy power compared to a lot of the cars in semi-pro, but this man is a man of many talents as he initiates into outside zone 1, doing a nice job so far. Maybe just not quite on the right line there, going into 2. As you can see, the duct tape on the back of the car, so he's clearly damaged the back when he came and rubbed the wall last time, but manages to make it work coming into 4, doing a nice job. Bit of a bobble, but manages to keep it going as he comes around now into 5. Nice and wide, and uses all of that 1,000 horsepower to get it across the line. Not too bad from Bartos there, just it's this 1 to 2 section that is where it's definitely going to be a bit of a hard one, because this is where he puts the foot down, and obviously those rear wheels go over the track limit, so we'll have to see what the judges think of that. But just a lovely transition into 3, making it work very well, that is for sure, and this time he did not rub the wall, so a big improvement there from Bartos as he comes around outside zone 4. As you can see, he's just filling it lovely and deep. That's where we want him to be, just kind of flirting in the middle as well, mid to deep line is where you want to be on that entire zone, as well as everywhere else on this track. Does a really good job though of making it work, as we just wait for a second score to come in, and I do believe we have 4 drivers left in qualifying for this class. God, I love Kuba's pit setup, it's so cool. But we have a 72 there for Bartos, so a nice improvement to his 66, putting him in at 11th. But now we have Magdalena, always looking really happy, having a great time. She's loving life, she loves drifting. But we have this second Indigo S15 as we wait for the lights to go green. She has got 0, so we'll have to see what she can do with the second one. She's got to get a score on the board. Nice big flick initiation there, going into outside zone 1. Lovely into 2. Nice big transitions, and there's a lot of style here. Ooh, just dropping maybe 2 tires there, going into 3 though. It comes around into 4. Obviously in her mind, she's got to put a score on the board. Coming around 4. Doing a nice job exiting 4. Coming around onto 5 now. Limiter bashing over the line. That is one of the hardest things to do, is when you get a 0, you have to you have to put another score on the board, otherwise it is game over for your weekend. And that definitely plays into your head a bit, but Magdalena doing very well under the pressure there. Just here, that could be a big point of where the judges could punish her quite severely. But she does a good job of getting into 4, keeping it nice in the mid-line to deep here. As you can see, she goes from mid to the deep line. Maybe you'd need a little bit more angle there just to let the car float through the outside line a bit more consistently, but I just get into 5 nice and smooth. We'll have to see what her second run is going to score. Obviously, not an easy place to be when you're struggling with car setup. Although I'm not too sure what the temperatures are on the track, so it could be a case of... And it's a 63.5, so Magdalena is in the show at 14th position. So lovely stuff there from Magdalena. As we have Macius now in that 774... 774, where did I get 70? Honestly, the 777 horsepower car with 777 driver number. I think that's really cool. Clearly this man likes to gamble, and he's definitely not going to be gambling on his car today as he comes into the initiation. Nice big flick initiation, well, handbrake initiation should I say. 101 kilometers per hour on the entry as well, so nice bit of speed there coming around into 4 now. Doing a solid job as he comes around and exits 4, nice and smooth. Big transition coming into 5, lovely across 5. Really nice job there from Mr. 777. That's going to be his name for me now. As you can see there, he does fulfill 1 very nicely. Just kind of coming a bit shallow on 2 though, as that transition was a bit snappy and quick. Didn't quite have the car where it needed to be, but manages to make it work very, very well as he comes into 4. Starts on that midline and gets onto the deep line, and then goes back onto the middle line. It's one of those, it's a balancing act. It's a risk reward. If you want to left foot brake through there, you've got to make sure you're not decelerating through the left foot braking, and sometimes it can actually mess with your line as well. You can straighten the car up occasionally, depending on your setup, but it's an 85.5 from Mistrzosta, so putting himself in 2nd place. Lovely, lovely work there. As we have this awesome M3 GTR from Wojciech. I am really not going to attempt his last name, but he's got 62.5 on his first run, 700 horsepower. Really, really cool car. As you can hear it, absolutely screaming off that start line. Nice handbrake initiation as he comes around now into out of 2. Looking smooth so far as he comes around into 3. Doing a good job transitioning now into 4. Keeping it nice and consistent. That is what we like to see, nice and smooth as well. Lovely stuff through 4 there as he comes around now into 5. Keeping it nice and deep. Yes, he can. Lovely stuff there. So definitely a decent run, but the question is, will it top his first? Keeping it nice and smooth is the aim of the game. As you can see, nice big transition going into outside zone 3. Nice and snappy, but keeping it smooth once again. Coming it into 4, does a lovely entry into there. Manages to keep it nice and smooth. Just flirting with the outside line now. Needs to pull it in a bit deeper, but as he does, comes out of 4, nice and smooth, and across the line on 5. Nice and fast as well. As Wojciech gets a 75.5, which puts him in 7th place. So a nice improvement there. But now we have our top points driver of semi-pro, which is Patrick Detmer, with our start line marshal, having a great time. So Patrick Detmer now in with a 79 in qualifying. Can he try and take the top spot? We'll have to see. As the lights go red, now they go green. I said it a bit early, but here we go. Patrick Detmer coming in for his 2nd run. Utilising as much of the track as he can. Big flick initiation. He comes around now to outside zone 2. Lovely stuff. Keeping it nice and fast. Lovely through 3 there as he comes around into outside zone 4. Keeping it nice and smooth. A little bit left foot braking to keep it wide. Lovely from Patrick as he comes around now into 5. Nice run there for Patrick, but will it improve on his first score? We'll have to see. So as you can see, nice big flick initiation there, utilising as much of the initiation as he can get. Transitioning into 2. Lovely wide line there as he comes around into out to 3. Definitely a nice, consistent and smooth run. That's what we've been wanting to see. As you can see there, just floating with that outside line. That's where you want to be, just inside of that. Keeping it as wide as you can. As you can see, he does a slow transition coming across into 5, and that works really, really well for him here. As he comes across the line, definitely a good 2nd run. So we'll have to see what Patrick gets for his 2nd run. And an 87.5, which puts him in 2nd place. So that does conclude our qualifying for semi-pro. Really, really good set of runs there from our drivers. No double zeros. Amazing work from all of them. We're going to have a nice top 16 tomorrow. So we're just going to get our qualifying standings up just in a second, so we can. Wonder if they know we're there. As Space Millions just having a bit of a cool down. It does get really hot in those cars, but here we go. Here's your qualifying standings going into our top 16. We have Vaclav with that 91, Patrick with the 87.5,